In the previous video, we looked at how politically biased information contributed to fake news. In this video, we'll be looking at the real-world consequences that politically biased media has on the American public and examine the political effect that politically biased media had on the 2016 presidential election. Politically biased information, whether termed fake news or otherwise, has the direct ability to impact the public. Kevin Kelly of technology website Wired writes that, quote, truth is no longer dictated by authorities but is networked by peers. For every fact, there is a counterfact. All those counterfacts and facts look identical online, which is confusing to most people, end quote. Indeed, this fact-counterfact idea leads to what are known as echo chambers and filter bubbles, where groups of people who believe in the same thing congregate, metaphorically of course, and get their own information from sources that confirm what they think, or echo, and of course filter their media to ensure that what they get is what they want to hear, subconsciously. A Pew Research study conducted in December 2016 showed that 64% of Americans felt that fake news stories caused confusion. Stephen Lewandowski, a cognitive science professor writing for BBC Future, stated that, quote, democracy relies on people being informed about the issues so they can have a debate and make a decision, end quote. Just from monitoring daily news, we can see that a partisan split has emerged in the United States, preventing normal, civilized discussions from happening between not only government officials, but also amongst the public. This deepening in political affiliation means that each side burrows further into their own echo chambers and filter bubbles to listen and act on only the information that they want to hear. A clear example of what media expert Martina Chapman terms a, quote, post-truth future is the constant labeling of legitimate news as, quote, fake news by an authority figure, for example, the President of the United States. Many of his supporters support him strongly enough to endorse his word over the words of the media, leading to, quote, an era where people, often politicians or people of influence, make false claims to influence public debate with little or no negative consequences to themselves, thus helping to feed the mistrust of messages and drive the flow of misinformation. This is quite present in the America of today, where if the president says something misleading or lies, the media calls him out on it, and then are labeled fake news, thus helping to plant seeds of discontent and mistrust in truthful messages, allowing disinformation to spread. Indeed, according to a Gallup poll, many Americans recognize that mainstream media is biased. 45% believe that the media is greatly biased, while 65% of those surveyed believe that bias in topics that should be covered objectively is a big problem. Based on these statistics and looking at general overall trends, biased news, fake news, and biased news organizations have resulted in less Americans trusting news organizations, despite 84% believing that the media plays an important role in democracy. More statistics show divides in thinking on regulation of the media and in online platform content changes based on information one is provided with, ostensibly from potentially biased sources of information informing their opinion. Significantly, less than one-third of Americans could confidently say that they distinguish between facts and opinion presented together on a news show. All in all, what this means is that because of political bias, Americans trust their media less and remain split among party lines listening to sources that feed their own bias. And when voters choose to remain within their own echo chambers and filter bubbles, they directly affect the political landscape of the US. The political landscape in America has always been affected by the medium through which information and political discourse is shared and listened to. In the 19th century, this happened mostly through newspapers and print media. Media experts have argued that as partisan newspapers exploded, their presence as a, quote, check on power was significantly weakened, end quote. This trend continued in the 20th century as radio and television news became a staple of information transmission. Indeed, as the 2000s rolled around, the prominence of online news prompted researchers and scientists to fear that, quote, echo chambers and filter bubbles, end quote, of like-minded people would form, creating whole groups of like-minded people who were isolated and insulated from differing ideas and opinions. The emergence of fake news was a major issue in the 2016 United States presidential election. 62% of Americans got their news from social media, according to one study. Numerous further studies indicated that fake news may have actually helped Donald Trump get elected as president in 2016 by presenting misinformation as fact. Combined with already entrenched values and ideas from echo chambers and partisan media, people absorbed misinformation as fact, becoming influenced enough to vote one way or the other. The 2016 United States presidential election revealed some deep chasms in American media and the media landscape. These chasms prevented civil debate in favor of party politics, and these chasms also prevented people from agreeing to work together. And so, if we want to fix these problems, we must learn to work together. This means cutting through the nonsense that is misinformation and respecting facts for what they are, the truth.